I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update from Monday, May the 5th, 2014. The state of Israel came to a standstill this morning as a siren sounded for Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day for the fallen in Israel's wars and to victims of terror. Last night at 8 o'clock local time, a siren sounded, marking the beginning of Yom HaZikaron, and this morning a second 2-minute siren sounded at 11 o'clock local time, where Israeli citizens across the country stood in silence to honor and remember. Following this morning's siren, the official memorial service for the fallen was held at Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, attended by Israeli President Shimon Peres and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where Netanyahu said the sacrifices of the fallen make life in Israel possible. Netanyahu said Israel is a strong, secure country that can defend itself facing any threat, but this security costs a price too heavy to bear of the loss of our loved ones. He said, "We are grateful for their sacrifice that has allowed us to live here in an independent country, proud of all its citizens in a country that is the national home of our people." Following the memorial service for fallen soldiers, a ceremony was held at Mount Herzl for victims of terror attacks in Israel, where Netanyahu also spoke, although he was interrupted by bereaved parents of terror victims attending the ceremony, who yelled at the Prime Minister for freeing those responsible for their children's murders, referring to Israel's releasing Palestinian security prisoners who have, quote, blood on their hands. Netanyahu addressed the government decision to free the prisoners and said at the ceremony that he knew there would likely be protest, that he was there, though, to pay his respects. The Prime Minister said the decision that has been made was difficult. It goes against the values of justice. Everyone feels this way. The complicated reality in our region, he said, has created a situation in which for the last 4 decades, the governments of Israel had to make decisions that were hard to bear. Netanyahu said, "I knew I will meet you here, but I viewed it as my responsibility as the Prime Minister of Israel. I salute your bravery and resistance." And here in the United States, ceremonies were held to remember Israel's fallen as well. The Israeli consulate in New York City marked the Memorial Day at the 92nd Street Y last night with Israeli Consul General Ido Aharoni, who listed the official numbers of Israel's total fallen as 23,169 soldiers killed and 2,495 killed from acts of terror. 57 IDF soldiers fell in combat in this past year. Aharoni said there were and always will be those among us who put their lives on the line for the sake of us all. Today, he said, we salute the women and men who sacrificed their lives so we could be here today. Ceremonies and memorial services continue throughout the day in Israel today until 8 o'clock local time, when Israel made its annual dramatic transition from mourning and remembrance to celebration of its independence, with the conclusion of Yom HaZikaron and the beginning of Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, celebrating this year the state's 66th birthday. As Israel's Foreign Ministry website explains, the proximity of the Day of Remembrance to that of Independence is intended to remind people of the heavy price paid for that independence. Authorities in Belgium banned a rally from taking place yesterday, which critics had called an anti-Semitic hate fest. The first European Dissidents Congress was set to take place in Anderlecht, a suburb of Brussels, when the mayor decided against it, citing a clear risk of disturbance to public order. Following news of the ban, rioting broke out and police had to disperse the crowds using water cannons. The rally was organized by a small far-right group called Stand Up Belgians, founded by far-right Belgian lawmaker and known anti-Semite Laurent Louis. Among the speakers that were scheduled to address the rally was French comedian Dudon Mabala, who has been convicted several times on anti-Semitism charges. The Belgian League Against Anti-Semitism had filed a legal complaint against the rally, saying it would be a, quote, real day of hatred, which would be a framework for the worst gathering of anti-Semitic authors, theoreticians, and propagandists in our country since World War II. The Brussels-based Transatlantic Institute, or TAI, of the American Jewish Committee praised authorities in Belgium for barring the rally. TAI Director Daniel Schwamenthal said it was important for leaders to work together in fighting against the dramatic rise of anti-Semitism and extremism across Europe. Schwamenthal said by ensuring that this obscene hate fest will not be permitted in the capital of Europe, Belgium has demonstrated solidarity with the Jewish community and a reaffirmation of democratic values that are threatened by anti-Semitism and racism. And Director of the American Jewish Committee's French office, Simone Rodin Benzaken, echoed the sentiment. She said democracies across Europe must stand firm against anti-Semitism and racism and create a comprehensive plan to fight those who defy European values and principles. A group of 19 Jews from Ukraine arrived in Israel yesterday to make Aliyah, or immigration, to the country. The group received help from the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem, which raised money to pay for the flight and said that they have enough funds now collected to bring 100 Jews to Israel from the troubled region. ICEJ Executive Director Jürgen Bühler said the unfolding crisis in Ukraine has meant an even more uncertain future for the Jewish community there, and we have acted swiftly once again to bring needy and endangered Jews home from this troubled region. He said it will be a privilege for our staff to welcome this first group home on Sunday. The Jewish agency who coordinated the arrival of the 19 yesterday said last week that this year has seen a 142% increase in immigration to Israel from Ukraine as compared to last year, and that almost 800 people arrived in Israel since the beginning of 2014 from Ukraine, with over 200 having signed up to arrive this month. A full-page advertisement ran in today's editions of the New York Times and USA Today with a reproduction of Israel's Declaration of Independence in honor of its 66th birthday. The reproduction was sponsored by the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, made possible by a grant from the Leona M. and Harry B. Helmsley Charitable Trust. Helmsley trustee Sandor Frankel said that the goal was to reach many Americans and provide the chance to learn about the great similarities between Israel and the U.S. He said the promise of Israel's founders to uphold in a Jewish state social and political equality of all citizens without distinction of race, creed, or sex, to guarantee the full freedom of conscience, worship, education, and culture, to safeguard the sanctity of holy places of all religions, and the call for peace with all neighboring states resonates with America's own deepest values. And turning now to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, May the 5th, celebrate Israel's Independence Day here with Shalom TV with special programming tonight and tomorrow, including coming up at 7 tonight. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and the Zamir Chorale highlight Dor Hadash's Yom Ha'atzmaut celebration aboard the USS Intrepid. Then at 8 o'clock, Dr. Daniel Gordis, Senior Vice President of the Shalom Center, discusses why Israel's survival is critical to the future of Jews across the world. And at 9 tonight, Israeli veteran Joe Abudi joins Mark Gallup on the Chaim, where he recounts his memories as an 18-year-old member of the Palmach in 1948. And tomorrow, Tuesday, our Yom Ha'atzmaut programming continues, including a historical video by the David Horowitz Freedom Center on Israel's birth and survival that airs at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and an eye-opening documentary about the lives of Jerusalem residents dealing with terrorism and the yearning for peace. That's at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. For more special programming, you can go to shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update from Monday, May the 5th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader, joining the entire Shalom TV family in wishing the people of Israel the happiest, safest, and most prosperous of years.